Welcome to Thinking Green. Tonight's show is about industrial hemp, and I have with me Allan, Brison, and Betsy Goldberg, who have started a business called Sleeping Giant Hemp, and we are going to talk at length about anything you want to know about hemp. And just so you know, you can call in if you're watching with questions or comments anytime along the course of the show. So welcome, Allan. Welcome, Betsy.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, we tried to schedule this show like months ago, so I'm really glad you're here before we go on to summer vacation. Maybe we can start, you can start off talking about why it is that you decided to follow this interest in hemp.
Well, we've learned over the years that hemp is a very sustainable crop, that it was grown in this country, thousands of acres of it were grown, and then kind of mysteriously it became demonized and it was no longer grown. But it's very sustainable and doesn't require any pesticides, and so it just makes sense to start growing it again.
Our experience, my personal experience with hemp started kind of through the back door. We were concerned about the urban lead environment and noticed that we had a house that was maybe 100 years old and tested positive for lead around the soil, around the...
Yeah, that's very pertinent in New London too. A high
Exactly,
percent
right.
of the houses in our old cities have contaminated soil. So
being a librarian, I decided to figure out what the opportunities were to ameliorate the lead in the soil. And one of the sources I read said that roots of some plants would take up heavy metals in the soil. So one of the plants was sunflowers and one was industrial hemp. And at that point, I really had no idea what industrial hemp could be. I said, oh no, we could plant marijuana and then we could get busted, and that wouldn't do.
Right.
But so I ended up planting some sunflowers in the yard. But it got me thinking, the more I read online about industrial hemp, the more I felt that it was something that I'd like to pursue. And reading some of the history that Allan already said, that it had been a traditional crop in the United States. And so finding out about why it was demonized in a way and how to bring it back. This was probably around 10 or 12 years ago. And already I was seeing online places that were actually offering goods made out of hemp, and they were espousing the durability, the sustainability, the traditions of hemp. And so I got interested in wearing hemp, and I bought a couple of things online. And ever since then, it's been in the back of my mind that I would like to promote this crop. This is a crop and as a textile.
and it probably lasted forever, right?
It did, yeah. I still have the shirts that I bought 12 years ago. One has a little hole in the sleeve, but it's been durable. It wears fine. It's been fun to wear.
Well, thinking about the colonial America, I think people were exhorted to grow hemp a few hundred years ago.
Yeah, in Virginia, it was actually required. You had to grow hemp. You had to have some hemp grown. And all the founding fathers grew hemp. Washington, Jefferson.
Well, they were good citizens, right?
Yeah. And you have to think, I didn't realize all this, but you have to think that all the covered wagons that went out to California, those covered wagons were made out of hemp textiles. All the sails of all the ships that sailed the oceans up until, who knows, fairly recently, were made out of hemp. It was a huge ropes. Ships were outfitted with ropes and sails that were all totally made out of hemp. This history is something we've been learning about, but it's something that's kind of you have to really dig a little bit.
And now we've become used to paper that was made of wood pulp, but as well as fiber for fabric, paper was hemp-based as well.
Betsy,
The paper that's made out of hemp has qualities that are better than wood pulp paper. It's naturally, think, non-acidic, so that it won't yellow with age. It lasts a lot longer. There's just beginning to be a paper manufacturer of hemp. It's coming back a little bit. This paper is made of hemp. The paper that's currently made of hemp has about 25% hemp fiber in it, and the fibers that it's used are the inner core of the hemp plant. And it's the manufacturer that we use is 75% post-consumer waste paper. It's lignin-free, which means that it won't yellow or crisp up with age, so it has a long life. It was used historically to produce documents in the United States, but it also has like a thousands of year old history in other countries. I mean, a lot of, I can't say a lot of hemp, but hemp has been found in antiquities as a writing material. So it has been around for a long time.
and just to add, the Declaration of Independence was printed on hemp paper. Betsy has told me that in the library, the museum library, where she has been working fairly recently, they have documents dating back 200 years on hemp.
Yeah,
You know, and
that's true.
they're very well preserved. So it was a very good source of paper.
And as opposed to wood fiber, I imagine it was a much more sustainable process. I mean, people didn't have to cut down acres of trees to turn them into dust,
Yeah,
sawdust to
can-
make the paper, because, you know, the crop could be grown annually.
Yeah, yes. I forget, I've seen the statistics, but I've forgotten them, but you get much more from an acre of hemp, much more paper than you can get from an acre of trees.
I've heard the 20-year, that there's the difference between the amount you can get in 1 year with hemp as opposed to growing a 20-year-old tree that you
Wow.
would use with paper. Again, I'm not sure about the statistics. I would
Yeah.
like to tell you, but I'm not sure that was the reason that it was used. It may have been just a better quality product, that they decided that they would use hemp for paper. It has a longer fiber than the wood pulp would have, so it's more, again, it's more durable.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the processing of it was probably an easier in a pre-technological age as well. The wood pulp paper, that's a like early 20th century or late 19th century
Yeah.
invention.
Yeah, probably the 80s, definitely post-Civil War. I'm not sure exactly when it became prevalent, but the newspapers from the late 1800s are very much more crisp and deteriorating than those from the late 18th century, the 1700s, which were made using cotton rags and probably hemp as well. So the production of trees for paper, production of paper using trees was a later addition to it.
Now, you mentioned that the paper is from the inner core, and I know you have a little chart of different parts of the hemp plant, because it's got a lot of uses, and different parts of it are used for different things, correct?
The inner core, the industrial hemp plant has an inner core called the bast, which are those little chunks on the bottom.
Maybe we can zoom in on this, and we can actually, yeah.
And they're used for paper, and you notice that the fibers are short. They get broken up in the processing of the stalk. And they're also used in building construction now. But as far as paper, the bast materials are, if you've made homemade paper, you know, you grind everything up and you lay it flat on a screen and it dries into paper, more or less. And those short fibers are mixed currently with other fibers to make paper. Again, it's not acidic. It'll last a long time. It's usually done without much bleaching, so the people who are using hemp now for paper are considering the sustainability of it and not using chlorine, for example, for bleaching. The bast is also used, as I said, for a building material called hempcrete, which I don't know much about either, but I do know that it's used to make a concrete-like wall system that can have very great insulating and thermal capabilities. I've seen images where it's used in refrigeration, and one of the reasons to use it is it's only using hemp and lime, and it's kind of a net CO2, kind of a zero CO2, or it actually absorbs CO2 rather than
Oh,
releasing it
wow,
from
as
the air.
opposed
So
to like wood frame where you're cutting down trees.
or regular concrete, which would emit it. It actually needs to have a framework in order to be produced, but it's just an emerging technology of the use of hemp.
Now, on this card, that's a coarser grind of the hemp?
The
So-
two
Yeah,
bast ones on
Yes.
the bottom, yes, it's coarser. You can actually get them in one or the other coarseness. The finer one would be used probably for the hempcrete, and it's just a step in the process of making the hempcrete is to grind it up in that. It's also used for animal bedding. The finer one would probably be used for animal bedding, horse bedding. Again, it's going to be an inert, it's going to be toxin-free animal bedding, and it could even be if a hemp plant is used for oils or the flowers of the plant, the stalk could still be used for other, a myriad of uses besides that as well.
now this also has some other, like longer fibers. Where do they come from and what are they used for?
So the longer fibers, the textiles are made of the longer fibers, and they're the outside of the hemp stalk.
It's
Yeah.
it's called there's the, I can't read that word, bast, the bast and the herd.
I'm sorry, you know what,
Yeah.
I did the wrong thing. The herd is
Yeah, the herd is the
the
bottom
bottom.
two that are used for things like the bedding and the
Right.
hempcrete.
The bast
It's
fibers.
also, I'm sorry, the herd
Yeah.
is also used for building materials and no, I guess
And,
that's, and paper.
and
Yeah,
paper
Yeah.
And that's something we're not seeing a lot of now is hemp paper, but it's amazing to think that, 150 years ago, that was kind of the
That was it,
standard.
yeah, yeah.
And there's
Did
one.
we bring some, we did bring something,
Yeah, I have some show and tell. Should I bring out my paper?
Sure.
Okay. The paper that we have, I think originally came from Colorado. It comes in various weights of paper. This is a paper journal and sketch pad. And then
It's got a nice feel to it.
yeah. When I've given people samples of this artist's paper, they really feel that it's a really great texture. You can see the kind of the fibers in it. And the screen that it's on actually gives it a really nice weight. It can be used for watercolor, drawing, sketching. And again, it's 25% hemp and 75% post-consumer waste.
So environmentally speaking, it's just a whole lot more sustainable than making it out of wood.
Yes, it is, for those reasons. You're
And
reusing.
also, hemp is grown without pesticides. You don't use any pesticides in the growing of hemp, so it's much better.
And what's better than making a weed useful?
Yeah.
The one other thing about it is that it can be grown in areas that are not crop friendly, that might not be as nutrition of a soil, and that has a huge root system, so it will actually amend the soil as it's growing. So it will actually appreciate and improve the soil as well.
And you mentioned before also removing toxins from
Yes,
from
yeah.
the soil. Now, I guess I can't help but wonder. Industrial hemp is definitely a separate plant from the psychoactive, cannabis, but we're seeing legalization of marijuana in a few states. Can those stalks from those plants also be used for, like, paper?
I'm
You'd
not
think-
sure, not that I know of, but it may be, but not too efficiently, I don't think.
Yeah, it probably wasn't bred for it, but I do wonder, you know.
So anyway, just to clear up maybe a little confusion here, and I have heard different stories, but the main thing is that both industrial hemp and the hemp that you get marijuana from, they're the same species, but different varieties of the same species. And they're as different as perhaps, thinking of dogs, as different as a St. Bernard is from a Chihuahua.
Right, all the same species, but.
Same species, but very, very different in many, many aspects. And so.
Although, you know, politically, of course, they've kind of gotten the lines blurred over the
Definitely.
past several decades, so that, you know, we end up with policies that are, frankly, kind of crazy.
And according to some of the things that I've read, these policies, and it's more than several decades, but these policies are a direct result of competing industries, such as the lumber industry, such as the chemical industry. DuPont was one of the main people that strategized, I believe, to demonize industrial hemp by associating it with marijuana and with Mexicans. He was a racist, I guess. But that was his program. And he got the United States government, Harry Anslinger was the name of the person that did a lot of this as a head of the DEA, I think, was his position. To I mean, it wasn't just something that just happened out of nowhere. You know, it was something that had a very definite, there were competing industries, cotton, chemical, and lumber.
And I remember even, like, as I was growing, a kid in the 50s, these synthetic fabrics were starting to come out also, and I'm thinking they were probably, you know, seen as, you know, big bucks, but a lot of them are made from the petroleum industry, back when, you know, you could buy gas for 20 cents a gallon, and it turns out that's been a damaging trend.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go back a little bit?
Sure.
There's one thing that you said that is just coming into the air now, and that is industrial hemp the same plant as marijuana? And there's a big distinction, though they are the same species. The THC content in industrial hemp, the definition that a proposed federal law would be that the industrial hemp has less than 0.3% of THC, and that would be the defining distinction between industrial hemp and marijuana. And anything above that would not be legal to grow as industrial hemp, and anything at 0.3% or under would be. And there are several organizations that are trying to get the DEA to accept that determination and to consider industrial hemp as a separate plant that's not on the controlled substance list. So that's the distinction, is 0.3% of THC.
There is, I think there's an argument that one could be mistaken for the other. So you could say you're growing one, but actually be growing the other. But they look very, very different. The marijuana that has a lot of the THC, that comes from the leaves, and they're very bushy and have lots of leaves. Whereas the industrial hemp that has very little THC is the stalks and things.
Yeah, really, the leaves are not the part that people are after. Because we talked a little bit about the fiber, and, you know, there's also the food part of it, which is also not the leaves, it's the seeds.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because seed plants are, if you're asking, you're getting oil or nutrition from the plant, it is from the seeds. And the oils for other uses as well, for cosmetic uses, and people even have said to replace oil for running motors and engines. But that is there are different varieties that have the qualities that you're looking for. It's not that you're growing it longer to get the seed, but you're growing a different variety that might have a better, a taller stalk, or
Right.
better flowers, or better leaves.
Yeah,
or
better yield
yeah.
of what you want.
Mhm, exactly.
My guess is because of the prohibited status until very recently, when it's slowly shifting, there hasn't been as much research into breeding varieties that are specialized for the uses as much as if, you see on so many other plants.
I don't know, because Betsy might have a different, I suspect there has been. I mean, hemp is grown in at least 30 countries,
True.
including our neighbor, Canada. So it's being grown all over the world, and I'm sure there's a lot of research into that in some of these countries.
Well, talking about that it's grown in so many parts of the world, you are wearing hemp.
Yeah.
And it's legal. You can
Yes.
have, you're not breaking the law by having hemp
I would,
shirts.
yeah.
Right.
And I'm not going to get
Import.
high on it.
Right. But it's not legal to grow it here, so all of this fabric has to be imported.
Either the fabric or the hemp itself. It's legal to import hemp. It's not legal to grow it. And that, of course, just makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm thinking for some uses that are, in making garments, there is a lot of skill in the manufacturing, but for making things like rope, I mean, that's, you're bringing in the raw fiber and you're just like twisting it. It just seems ridiculous that you can't grow it locally.
Mm-hmm.
Right. A lot of the rope is imported as well. Romania is one of the countries that has had a continuous hemp production. One of the reasons being that the tools that they use to process the hemp have been kept and maintained, so that they have they don't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. So there's a lot of hemp rope coming from Romania. Same in China. China has had a continuous production of hemp using the implements the processing infrastructure there, which includes soaking the hemp. It's more or less like making linen. In fact, the hemp feels a lot like linen.
Yeah.
And linen coming from the flax plant, which is another tall, lanky plant, where if you first soak the fibers in either tubs or canals of water to kind of dissolve the surrounding structure of it, then breaking apart the fibers so that they soften using another piece of equipment. If we started a hemp textile tradition here again, we would have to actually develop all of those infrastructure pieces of it. So that'll be, I guess, I'm not sure if that's the focus of the initiative to grow hemp here yet. I think probably more its focus is on oils and the flowers for the other chemicals that can be extracted from it, and medical marijuana, exactly.
And yet we're thinking, about the local economy, and of course in Southeast Connecticut there's a tremendous dependence on large-scale military manufacturing, which, people, in terms of personal wealth, are encouraged to diversify. We shouldn't be putting, all of our eggs, regarding employment in one industry. And it seems as though even though you need equipment to make the hemp fiber, it isn't as big an endeavor as creating a factory that'll make a submarine. It could be done on a couple acres of land with a relatively modest investment.
I think so.
The wool industry, for example, has co-ops where there's processing. A lot of co-ops will send their sheared wool to a processing plant, so that's geographically close by. I can anticipate that maybe the same thing would happen. Maybe you would have a lot of small farmers growing crops of hemp, and then either transporting it to a centralized location for the processing of it. And I think that in Kentucky, that's already happening. There's at least one person who's trying to invest a lot of money in the processing of infrastructure that we talked about, to at least experimentally handle what they anticipate the crop to be in Kentucky, which is already growing hemp, industrial hemp.
Now, is Kentucky one of the first states to really have a
Kentucky-
larger scale growing
Yes,
operation?
I think, yeah, it seems to be focused down there, Colorado, Kentucky, I guess Oregon to
And
an
I
extent,
think I've heard Wisconsin.
Possibly,
think.
yeah, true.
I don't know why,
Vermont.
but-
Vermont is trying to get going a hemp industry there. And that would be a perfect place like for Vermont growers to kind of team up to get that
Right.
central processing. So I can envision that being a way to make it work here.
Well, you're mentioning all of these different states, Vermont, Colorado, just points out that this is a very adaptable crop.
Yeah.
Cotton is grown in the United States, but it's not grown in Connecticut or Vermont.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
So the hemp plant, can it be grown everywhere?
Yeah, I'm not sure the limitations are. Have you heard of it like being grown in the tropics or?
No. Well,
'Cause, or even in the American South? Oh yeah, well,
Okay.
we know it was
so we
grown
know
in Virginia, and we know it's grown in Kentucky. But in the deep South, I'm not so sure, but I haven't heard of it, I don't think, but
Well,
could be.
But yeah, if it's Canada and, places like Vermont and the Midwest and Oregon,
Yeah,
at least the, northern part of the country
at
could
least, yeah.
really
yeah,
go into it.
whether it's grown or found wildly, it's, I know we have in our little store, we have fair trade bags from Bangladesh, for example. We have hemp from Nepal, and again, China
Yeah.
is a large hemp grower, Romania. So, I mean, it's not only just the temperate climates. I don't know what the climate is in Bangladesh, but I don't think it's temperate.
No, I think it's hot.
So it could be different varieties of hemp. I mean, they certainly feel differently as they're processed. One is more rough and one more refined than the other. And that could be the processing, or it could be the plant itself.
Now, we took a close look at these fibers that are used for the hempcrete and the paper, but I would like to kind of look at some of these longer fibers that are, well, there are long fibers and then there are short fibers.
I think that's just,
How does,
yeah. I really don't know what these short fibers are used for. I think in the textiles, which we focus on, the longer the better. The longer
Yeah.
fiber makes a stronger
so
thread.
these,
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm embarrassed to say that I mixed up the
Yeah.
herd and the bast. But
Yeah.
the long fibers are hollow. So as far as the quality of a garment that's made from them, the textile, it's actually very lightweight but strong. It'll actually breathe. And it's when you wear it, you can see that it actually is warming, but it's not overpoweringly warming. It's ventilating. It absorbs moisture, so it'll actually keep you cooler in the summer. So that's some of the qualities that I found out pretty early about it that made me really interested in it as a textile.
well, it's
You can look-
interesting here that you can see the long fiber and then the different
Yeah.
stages, because this is degummed, which I'm guessing it's been soaked
Yes, exactly.
to have whatever sticky connective tissue dissolved off. And this is combed and it's very smooth. It looks like it's ready to be spun into yarn.
They can be this long as opposed to the best cotton, which can be inches long. It can be feet long, and so therefore very strong. Hemp cord and rope have been used in crafting, and as Allan mentioned before, it creates a really strong maritime rope. In fact, during World War II, after the prohibition of hemp began, it was brought back as a crop and mandated to grow in order to provide maritime rope for vessels, and I'm not sure of this, but I believe also fiber for durable textiles. I've been told, and it's not absolutely sure that it's true, that the first jeans were made of hemp and not
Wow.
cotton.
That would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
When would that have been? Because I've read about how the
The
49ers
the 19th century. Yeah.
wore Levi, I believe made by Levi
Wow.
Company.
Yeah, it's not 100%
That were hemp.
sure
Yeah.
that it was hemp, but it's
It's a great story.
an ex-urban legend, I guess. But yeah, it was brought back because of its durability and strength. And the strength comes from the length of the fibers that are making up the eventual rope.
Now, we've talked a lot about the fibers, using it for fabric and paper and building materials, but then there's the whole other dimension of the seeds and the source of food and other materials that come from the heads. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that part of what hemp could add to our economy and our health.
I'm not sure I'm the one to handle
Oh.
this, but I could start by saying that hemp is, I mean, we've used it and as a replacement for nuts and seeds in general. It can be used to make a non-dairy milk, which is pretty good. So
And also a tofu kind of, they call it hemp tofu,
Oh.
but it's, I think the original company that made it is out of Canada, and it's actually been bought by a Connecticut company.
Oh, wow.
Really?
The company that makes it. Hemp milk is, and hemp seeds are said to have a really great balance between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. I don't really follow that very well, but apparently it's a really good balance in healthy fats, as well as the seeds having fiber, as you know, and they're actually delicious.
And of course, these are readily available today to us.
They are. So,
Yeah.
and that's legal too. We just can't grow it here, right?
Right.
We can bring in
We
seed
can
as
drink
long as
it, but
it's
we
not,
can't-
as long as it's not viable, as long as you can't plant it and it will produce a seed.
Well, the one thing I
Oh.
learned that was great was that it's not allergenic either. So it's a nut substitute, but most people can eat it.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of people are allergic to nuts that aren't allergic to hemp.
So the other, the oils are also used in skin and body care, in natural household cleaners. A really famous use of hemp is Dr. Bronner's, the company, and the descendants of the original Dr. Bronner are very much hemp advocates, and they would like to see a culture in this country. But they've used hemp oil at least since 2000. And a reason to use the oil is that it's very pure, it's very, it saponifies really well, it's very easily spread on your skin, it's nourishing to your skin. Another body care, or kind of I guess you can't call it a cosmetic, but a natural use of it is as a carrying oil for like aromatherapy, and in candle making, the fact that it's non-toxic, it doesn't give off toxic fumes as some other oils will. It can be used very readily in candle making. It has a kind of a short shelf life, so you can't make your whole candle out of it, and it also doesn't solidify as readily as some other candle substances will. But if it is as an additive to a candle, as a carrying oil for aromatherapy, as part of a mixture in liquid soaps and in solid soaps, it has really great qualities as well.
Now, you're talking about the oil, and I've heard that it can be actually a replacement for fuel. So it can make a kind of a biodiesel.
Yeah, definitely. I question whether that's a good use of it, because I think we really have to develop the infrastructure to go from petroleum to solar, not from petroleum to ethanol, which is a terrible thing probably in much of the third world, where land is being bought up in order for ethanol. Now, maybe it wouldn't be that bad with hemp, I'm not sure, but somehow I don't think that's really it's certainly not my interest or focus. I want to see solar and wind replace petroleum.
Yeah, so that if
And that could be done. That's the thing.
So yeah, if we don't want to cut down trees, to make paper or burn wood, we certainly don't want to cut down trees to plant hemp. So yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And there are
Totally
places
love
I
it.
know that have gotten deforested for corn for ethanol.
Yeah.
So we don't want to repeat past mistakes if we can avoid it. I wanted to ask you, what's the current status in Connecticut of hemp growing?
Well, the current status, as I understand it, Betsy may have a little better information, but as I understand it, the state passed a law legalizing the growing of hemp in 2015. It was signed by the governor. But it still can't be done, because in order to grow it, you've got to get permission. You have to get a permit from the DEA, the Department of Drug Agency.
Wow.
DEA.
Drug Enforcement Agency.
Drug
right.
Enforcement Agency. Yeah. And I guess there have been some very limited permits given out to grow it for research, but not very much. And if you were just starting to grow it, you could risk a great deal of trouble from the DEA.
And that's actually mind-boggling to me, that they're growing something like hemp, which it doesn't have a drug effect. It doesn't hurt you. It's got industrial uses. I always think that I can grow flowers in my yard that will kill people who eat them. We have a monkshood plant that is hidden in some back corner because we don't want any kids or cats or anything to discover it. But a lot of garden plants are toxic, and here's something that is not toxic, and that industrial hemp even doesn't do anything to you.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It really is.
Well, hopefully that won't be forever. I think Connecticut has legislatively some supporters for growing hemp, and I think it's just a matter of time that they'll come around to seeing that it's a net gain for us to be able to grow it. And look at all the tobacco fields that are looking for something to do,
But you
for
still have
example.
to deal with the federal laws, and that's not something we can do here in Connecticut by ourselves.
But our legislators can, and there is a law. It's actually sitting. It hasn't even gone through the committees yet, but there was a law introduced last year that our legislators, I think, signed on to, asking for the difference between industrial hemp and marijuana, and for it to be regulated or deregulated as far as controlled substance. And I think that several more states now, even this year than last year, are going that route. So a good way to kind of follow this issue is a website called votehemp.org. They have a lot of information about states and how their legislators are doing as far as hemp legislation. They also have information about the uses of hemp. And we actually got a handout that we use from votehemp.org. They have places that you can actually petition your government, and if you want to be an activist about hemp, they have great suggestions on how to do that as well.
And maybe just some people who are watching might not know, what is the current federal status of hemp?
Well-
it's considered as, to be a controlled substance that's regulated, which means prohibited, essentially, with some very small exceptions involving research in some places, but it means it's a controlled substance that it's considered the same as marijuana and the same as other drugs.
And all of these other drugs that are controlled to the same extent are actually much more dangerous than
Much more.
either of the forms of cannabis.
Yeah, much more.
Now, while we're talking about hemp, maybe we can talk briefly about, its brother or sister, marijuana, and what's the status of that in the state? I know we've gotten medical marijuana laws passed. Is there any hope of some movement in Connecticut that's similar to what's happened in Colorado or in Oregon or in Washington?
To legalize marijuana?
For recreation.
Recreational use? I haven't heard of anything, really.
I think our governor's against it, but he won't be governor forever.
I think marijuana is where the big bucks are going to be made. If you're looking to be a part of the movement, it's not going to be a grassroots movement. There's tomorrow and the next day in New York, for example, there's a convention on marijuana. It's a cannabis. I don't know the name of the convention, but it's a 2-day affair that happens in New York and in Southern California, I think San Francisco, every year. And it's large companies and venture capitalists who are interested in this. It's going to require licensing and buying permits. And I think that the little guy is going to probably be pushed out of the marijuana game. That's a personal opinion. I
think that is a real it's a real fear that I know that prohibition has been very hard on poor people, communities of color in our country, and it does not seem as though those communities are going to be able to cash in on the business end as it gets legalized.
I agree there. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask, you've recently started a small business. What is it like to be a small and fairly new small business owner in Connecticut? What kind of challenges are there?
Well, I would, to start off, just say figuring out what people might be interested in buying, what's available, seeing what's available and choosing what you're going to order and the display. I mean, it's we do a vending booth at fairs and festivals, and we have to, and we're competing with many other vending booths, some selling clothing, some selling different things that we also sell. So getting the display out is a real challenge, getting everything displayed in a way that's going to have maximum effect as people browse by and have about 15 seconds. You have about 15 seconds that your display has to grab them.
My guess is you didn't picture your retirement years like this.
No.
Now, I think you had mentioned before you had brought a couple of samples of things that people could look at. Is that true? Do you have any other show and tell stuff? We have 5 minutes left. So
5 minutes. Well, we've discussed my shirt.
Oh yeah, you should actually stand up and show your other shirt.
And show my
because
T-shirt.
it's hemp, but it's also
the T-shirt. I don't know how to face the. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to grow hemp, Uncle Sam. This T-shirt is made out of, I believe it's, I'd have to take it off to refresh my memory, but I believe it's 55% hemp and 45% rayon. Does that sound right?
Close, but the hemp in this shirt is actually made into a rayon fiber.
Oh.
So it's 45% organic cotton 55% of hemp that has been turned into a
I see,
rayon.
okay.
But
Viscose.
rayon is made from cellulose, right?
Yes, exactly, and hemp is, a large part of hemp is cellulose. It's called hemp viscose, and the production of it isn't entirely benign, I have to say, and what I have found, one of the hardest things for me is to kind of balance and weigh in the balance the idea of the sustainability of hemp and some of the production of it that might be unsatisfactory. For example, our goal is to have either fair trade or U.S. made, hopefully as little transportation involved. That's,
But we
when
don't
you
want
think of
sweatshirt
sustainability.
shops here, and we don't want everything to have to come, 8,000 miles.
Exactly, but, go
You
ahead.
look like
Oh,
you're
I was just
say
going to say, do we
something.
have anything else to show in the
Sure,
last
yeah.
couple of minutes?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have like
What?
2
Sure.
minutes. Do we have any?
Yeah,
Do you want-
a
Yeah,
couple
let's
of
do
things.
like a
Well,
1-minute show and
it's not-
tell,
it's
just
not-
so people get an idea of what.
Well, the textiles are very similar to what Allan has, and we also have all of the hippie stuff,
Okay.
like
Now, you
like
have rope in
belts
front of you.
belts and wallets. This is a sample of a very skinny rope that's made in Romania. Actually, you can actually smell it. You can smell the retting of it. When I said it was actually
Oh, yeah.
soaked in water, you can actually smell that it has had that. I don't have that much, but one of the uses that we haven't really talked about is hemp as a kind of a material that you can use in household products. So we have a canvas that's very heavyweight and a kind of a lighter weight canvas here to show that it can be very easily used in household durable goods. We have
Yeah.
a slipcover made out of
Yeah.
hemp
Oh, wow.
canvas as well.
And once again, it probably lasts forever.
I think so, yeah.
They're supposed to. My carry bag is actually a kind of a Mary Poppins bag where I can put everything in it. And this is what I was saying came from Bangladesh. It's actually wild crafted hemp that's made into a string bag that actually is very durable and expandable. It holds all my books that I also wanted to show you. We're beginning to see in the marketplace books about hemp. Allan has a few. This one is specifically about hempcrete that I was telling you. We don't sell these in our store, but we have it there. Again, I'm a librarian. I need to have a reference
So,
table. So,
and there are more and more books about hemp.
right. This is something you can get commercially. We do also sell it. It's the crafting cord. And it's if you've ever done any macrame, you can make hemp
1 minute.
bracelets and necklaces. This is one sample of how to do the knots, a very simple.
And we're down to our last 30
So-
seconds, so I
Okay.
think we're done.
All right?
Thank you
Good.
very much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I think this is up and coming. I think it's important. So thanks to both of you for coming in. Next week, my guest will be Shelley Altman, and she's from the New Haven chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace. And so we'll be talking foreign policy. So we'll see you then, and thanks again.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.